Welcome to episode number 210 of the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. I am your host, Elizabeth D'Alto, and this is Sunday sermon number 15. If you are new to the podcast, or this is your first time tuning in for a Sunday sermon, these are shorter solo episodes I do, just 10 to 20 minutes, where I do oracle readings or share my favorite prayers, poems, or excerpts from what I'm reading. These are like wild and untamed gospel, heart ponderings, and delicious morsels of wisdom to spark your own truth, power, and love from my wild soul to yours. In these episodes, I explore creative or inspiring ideas, thoughts, and ruminations for you to be nourished and fed by going into your week. As a person who was raised with religion, another inspiration to create these sermons was to provide a Sunday ritual that's more aligned with my current and ever-evolving spirituality and worldviews. That said, all belief systems are welcomed here on the show. My truth, ponderings, and curiosities are simply that, my own. So no matter what your faith is, may you get exactly what you need from listening to this, and may remember always that everything you've ever needed has always been inside of you. You are made from love, you are love, and you are loved. In today's sermon, I want to give you some things to ponder around the concept of being consumed, overconsumed, and becoming unconsumed. I'll bounce around a bit and give several examples to give you an opportunity to see which ones connect for you, and we'll wrap up by pulling a card from the Wild Soul Oracle deck. Unconsuming yourself isn't a new concept. I might be the one putting it in those terms, unconsuming yourself, but this is something I've been studying for years. I certainly didn't invent it. It's not revolutionary. Great thinkers and teachers have been talking about it forever. Bruce Lee said, "It's not the daily increase, but the daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential." Lao Tzu said, "To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day." And Paramahansa Yogananda said, "Be as simple as you can be. You will be astonished to see how uncomplicated and happy your life can become." Now consider, these teachers' ages range from just a few generations ahead of us now to centuries ahead of us. Unconsuming yourself has always been important because the human brain is built to be consumed. Our brains can process so much information, and just because we only consciously access a small percentage of that information doesn't mean that all the rest of it isn't impacting us on a daily basis. So if you're listening to this in real time, I'm running the Unconsume Yourself Challenge. It actually starts tomorrow, Monday, November 20th. And I was geeking out on this a little bit extra. Check out this stat. A study back in 2011 revealed that we are bombarded with the equivalent of 174 newspapers a day. That's 5 times as much information since 1986. And that study comes from 6 years ago. Yikes. Our responsibilities and stressors are off the charts. A lot of what doesn't work in our cultural, social, environmental, and political systems is breaking down before our eyes without viable new solutions in sight, let alone in place yet. And all of that feels extra scary and overwhelming because of the amount of images, articles, and videos we see about it online every single day, not to mention just people's opinions, how many people talk about things. If you scroll through your news feed, if you're on Facebook, these things are up. People are talking about all kinds of things. So we're taking in some things that are factual, some things that are opinion, and so much that falls into a gray area because sometimes we don't really know what's what. And that requires some energy to discern. The bottom line is, in spite of all our advances in the 21st century, it's easier than ever to be overstressed, overworked, overtired, overwhelmed, and overconsumed. The good news is, even with life challenges and complexities, it's possible to unconsume yourself and to tend to your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and energetic health in a way that makes 21st century living way more manageable and even fun and enjoyable. Life filled with grace, ease, love, joy, and prosperity is totally possible, and it's not just possible for the elite. I recently did a session with a friend who's a brilliant healer, and I didn't think I needed a session. I was just curious about her work, and when she posted about offering some one-offs, I jumped at the opportunity to take her up on it and have the experience. During our session, something we did was go back to a 5-year-old version of me and we removed a lot of what was already consuming me by that time. What we got back to was my pure and natural state of joy, enthusiasm, and love. Something I really wasn't expecting was to ask my 5-year-old self about love, like literally what she knows about love. As adults, that might sound kind of silly. Like, what could a 5-year-old know about love? I mean, a 5-year-old knows a lot less about love, which is why they're super wise. It was so simple. She just said to me, let it be easy and have fun. So what do I mean by a 5-year-old knows a lot less? A 5-year-old has much less conditioning than a 34-year-old. As adults, we've uploaded so many conditions to loving. And this is just one area of our lives where we become overconsumed. We think love has to be and look a certain way. There's timing and there are conflicting desires. So often we find right and wrong among ourselves. We think it should be done a certain way, only that way might not be how someone else loves. So we find ourselves in a position sometimes where we can't receive the love they're giving because it's not offered in the way we'd prefer. It was very eye-opening to see how my little 5-year-old self responded to how complex adult me was making one of the purest, most powerful forces in the world, love. So let's look at 2 other areas, money and work, since for most people, they're intricately intertwined as well as unavoidable. Think about your programming around money and work. Now listen, I'm not saying that programming is or isn't true. I'm just inviting you to consider it and how it impacts you personally. That you have to work hard to earn money, maybe that it's harder for some than others to make money, or that you can't do what you love to make money. Maybe beliefs around what is and isn't good money or what you actually need to survive. Or what about ideas like, if I make more money, I'll have more problems? Or if you're a 90s hip hop fan like me, mo money, mo problems. Or that people with money are jerks or evil. Because listen, there are a lot of examples that we see prevalently in our culture, in the media, of rich people who are jerks. And we see far fewer examples of the benevolent acts of non-jerks, of what people who are good humans are doing with their money, since benevolent people are also usually humble and therefore not shouting from the rooftops about all their generous acts. These are just a few examples that overconsume us and mess with our decisions, our actions, our behaviors, our reactions. And these things happen regularly around things having to do with money and work. One of the most fascinating things about the brain is that it's designed to keep us safe. This is one of the primary functions of the mind and the ego. They both want to protect us. Because of all the interesting programming and conditioning, some of which we've explored very briefly here, the brain often interprets things as unsafe, dangerous, or threatening that aren't actually unsafe, dangerous, or threatening. These are all just based on things the brain is consumed by. So this isn't fast work. It's not easy work. But to live happy, healthy, vital lives with real connection, deep meaning, and purpose, we've got to unconsume ourselves. So let's go to the card I pulled. I pulled the card before we hit record. And here's how I did it. I asked the deck what would be the most valuable message to go with this sermon. And then I shuffled until a card fell out of the deck. That's my favorite way to pull cards because it almost feels like the card pulled itself. So I got card number 26 from the Wild Soul Oracle deck, which is Healing in the Dark. The mantra for the card is nothing is permanent. Light is always within reach. And here's the message. Remember, your current situation is not your permanent reality. Sometimes situations feel insurmountable. That is just a feeling. It is not the truth. Everything has an other side, and you are more than capable of reaching it. You've got this. So take that message. I hope it resonates for you in some way, in some relevant way this week or right now or whenever you're listening to this, if you're not listening in real time. If you are, though, and you want some help on consuming yourself, you can join our free 5-day challenge. It's at wildsoulmovement.com/unconsume. And if you'd like to check out the Wild Soul Oracle deck, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/oracle. As always, thank you so much for listening. Even though these are shorter episodes, your time is super valuable, and I always appreciate any time that you spend here with me. This show is episode number 210, so you can find the show notes at untameyourself.com/episode-210, and we'll see you again next week.